Hi there, I'm Drew Badger, the world's #1 English fluency guide, and it is a pleasure to welcome you to another advanced listening practice lesson. Well, I'm going to get into things really quickly this time. I really want to give you lots of great practice with this, and so because people are continuing to ask me, speak faster, I'm going to give you that. So hopefully in this, I'm even like speaking too quickly for myself. I don't typically speak this fast. Even when I'm just in a regular everyday conversation, I don't really speak this quickly. And native speakers wouldn't do this either. But because I'm trying to train you, I want to give you even faster and faster speech to listen to, so that way you can really listen to this and hopefully you can get a much better, actually, like even faster than me. I recommend you look here, especially on YouTube, for the Micro Machines guy. So this is a guy, he's like a world record speed talker, and he's really fast. And I think you can actually find transcripts of what he's saying as well. But anyway, he was a guy, he did commercials for these tiny little cars that were pretty popular when I was a kid. Called Micro Machines. But if you search for him, Micro Machines guy, you can probably find some great videos about him speaking really quickly and doing like phone call, advertisements and all kinds of other things like that. But in general, the best way to get fluent, or is certainly developing your spoken or your listening fluency, I should say. This is more about your listening practice than your speaking fluency, because you actually have to get out and practice if you want to improve. People do kind of complain. They say like, well, Drew, I can understand you even when you're speaking really quickly, but my problem is when I start listening to other people, and that's where it's really not only they're not speaking too quickly, but they're also, they've got interesting accents or different accents or really weird accents I've never heard before, or they're using all kinds of casual vocabulary that I don't know either. And so this is one of those things where it just takes time. And you actually, kind of a thing, just in the same way that you should listen to this Micro Machines guy, just to get a feel for like having somebody actually speak really quickly. And he's speaking even much faster than I do right now. But when you're listening to somebody speaking like that, not only listening to fast speech, but a lot of different people saying the same thing. So this is a particularly easy thing you could do with like listening to different people give versions of speeches, or you could listen to different people doing versions of a different song, like 99 Red Balloons is a common one that I do. Or you look for Beatles covers here on YouTube. So there are classic Beatles songs or other songs. Like anybody that makes really popular music has lots of other bands that also try to produce that music as well. So if you try to listen to those things, you can get different versions of people saying the same thing. And so when you can take, anytime you're trying to learn something or trying to train your brain to do something, you want to take something where you can take something and just change one piece of it so that you can really train your brain to focus on that particular thing that's different about the two things. So your brain is really good at recognizing like, okay, what's different between these two things? And if you only have to focus on one thing that's different between the two, it's really going to make it easier for your brain. Now, I can talk about why that's such like an important thing for language learning in general, because so many people teach language learning, especially beginning learners, really badly because they give them too much information at the same time. And that's why it becomes really frustrating for people when they're trying to learn new languages, because they're trying to give too much information and it makes it really difficult for them. But anyway, this is just kind of a preamble, just like a little bit of an introduction to this video, because I won't be talking about this in the video at all, but just because I wanted to address this about speaking quickly and about being able to understand my videos, but not being able to understand other people that are also speaking quickly. Or even just not speaking so quickly, but they've got really difficult accents, or they use vocabulary that's tricky to understand. So these tips that I've given you at the beginning, it'll hopefully make it a little bit easier for you to understand those things. And again, it's just something you have to train. It's something that comes with time. But the more you spend time with things that are not specific lessons, the more you are going to actually develop your speaking fluency and your listening fluency, more important as well. Anyway, in this video, what I wanted to talk about, so we've got all that stuff about tips at the beginning, I wanted to talk about restraints and constraints. And so this is whether you're trying to build a business, or whether you want to have just like a better relationship with people, or you're trying to get fluent, the idea of constraints. And I kind of like mentioned this a little bit earlier in this video where I'm talking about the tips and trying to restrain the things that are different. So you don't want to learn a whole bunch of new things at one time. You want to focus on one thing at a time. And that's why I do this latest video series where I'm talking about, I just give you something simple like a backpack or a knife or a person, something like that. And so you can look at those things and try to think, oh, okay, this is a much easier way to explain something because I can just focus on a few particular things and try to build my fluency around that. And I've talked about this before, but it's such an important idea that you really need to hear it over and over and over again until you really master this idea. And this is that fluency doesn't require you to know a lot of words. You can know a bunch of words. I know plenty of people that know way more words in English than I know in Japanese, but they can't speak English fluently. And it just means that they don't know how to actually connect these words and actually use them when they want to say them in everyday conversations. So the way I can do this in Japanese is because I take a few things and I focus on those, and I train myself with lots of people, having lots of conversations with people, even about simple everyday topics such that I can use my language over and over and over again, but in slightly different ways. So I'm continuing to speak. I'm training myself to continue to speak for long periods of time because I'm constraining what I'm speaking about. And this is the important thing I'd like you to remember for this lesson. So the thing to take away, to remember from this lesson set, or this lesson I should say, is that you really want to focus on something and really constrain yourself. When you try to think about, economics or politics or other things that are really big and really important and have lots of different things, and you could really get specific about lots of particular things about those, it's really going to make it much more difficult for you because your mind has so many different options. It's like going to a grocery store and saying, wow, you've got like 1,000 different options for something when really just one or two would be able to make you, make it able for you to, I'm like stumbling over my words over because I'm speaking too quickly even than I speak normally. But because you have just a few options, it's going to make it much easier for you to select whatever you should be looking for. And you don't want to spend a lot of time in your own head, which is what a lot of learners do. I like to think of myself actually like as a dumb person. And because I don't think of myself as like I'm like a genius where I'm sitting and thinking about things all the time, I try to act as quickly as possible. I learn a new word, I try to use it as quickly as possible. I try to speak it in as many times as I can until I get used to something like a grammar point, and I use it over and over and over and over again until I can use it without thinking. And that way, like when I'm speaking, like even right now, I'm not even thinking about what I want to say. Like most of the time I'm trying to like have a general plan about what I want to say, but really I'm kind of pushing things. I'm pushing the speech out just so I can make a point. And hopefully, like as I relax and don't think about it, the correct point that I want to make becomes said. It's kind of a tricky way of explaining things. But anyway, the whole point of this video is that I want you to think about constraining yourself such that you don't think about too many things and you find one particular thing to focus on. It doesn't matter whether you're waiting for the bus or you're waiting for the train or you're talking with someone about like a particular, like even you got like a bottle of water in your hand. Now, if you want to explain that to someone, like this is a bottle. This is a pretty short bottle. This is a bottle that's got 150 milliliters in it, and whatever other things you can explain about that. But just begin by getting very specific about that thing, and even like the more specific, the smaller thing you can talk about. And if you're a teacher, you can do the exact same thing in your own classes. Like begin with a bottle sitting on a table in your classroom and just ask people to say as many things as they can about it. It doesn't really matter if they can speak like fluently about it or even if they have only like one or two things to say. But now like take the cap off the bottle and put just the cap on the table and have them start speaking about that. You're trying to focus them more and more and try to constrain what they can talk about. And you'd be surprised at how like the less you can speak about, the more your mind creates more opportunities to speak. So it's the opposite of what you would think would happen when you start trying to get fluent. And this is why I talk about this idea in many different ways, but it's so important not only for business or for learning, but specifically for fluency. If you want to train yourself to actually speak fluently, to understand people, but also be able to like communicate in even unfamiliar situations where you don't really know exactly what you're talking about, you want to take that opportunity to try to just practice with, your everyday objects that you see, even if you're just sitting by yourself, write some things down, or even just like go online and like, if you watch a video about something, like especially an engineering video where you're learning about how something works, begin by looking at the thing yourself and like write down your own sentences about it and write down, okay, or like even just record yourself. I'm like watching, like I made a video recently about, or it was talking about the creation of the aluminum can and the evolution of it. And so you could look about something like the evolution of the aluminum can, and you think, well, this is just like a really simple can. Like this is a can, this is a can. This is not a box, this is a can. So I'm just looking at something and trying to explain it in a really simple way, but at the same time, there's really a lot of information that could go into that can, the whole history of it, how it works, what you can do with it, what you can't do with it. And like all of those things that come together, those are the things that you begin learning as you kind of compare your way of doing something with the way a native speaker would do it. So look for videos like that, look for opportunities to practice, and look for, again, ways that you can constrain what you're talking about, that you can open your mind up, and that's what really gets your mind thinking about lots of different things. As an example, there's one like last thing I'll leave you with. You could have a costume party at your house, something like that. So this is just where people wear, like a crazy costume. They have to wear whatever that particular thing happens to be. They could be like a superhero, or they could be, like a famous movie star or something. But if you tell people, hey, it's a costume party, people are like, oh shit, what do I have to wear? Like I have to think about something creative. But if you constrain it, this is a costume party for like TV shows from the 1980s. Like come dressed as your favorite TV character character from the 1980s. Now, because you constrain this, people actually get more excited about a party like that because they're like, wow, like, okay, who can I be creative and like try to be like from that? So you've restrained them. You've taken away all these other things that they can think about, like, well, maybe they could be Spider-Man or they could be like a famous movie star, but they have to be something from that particular era. So it forces them to constrain their thinking, but it actually makes them much more creative. So the more you can do that, the more creative you can get, the more you allow your mind to actually help you develop get your fluency that way. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this video. Do like this video. Tell like, 20,000 other people about this video too. Put it on social media. Tell everybody. Say, hey, you should go watch this video because it's a very important video. So like this video. Do become a subscriber to the EnglishAnyone.com YouTube channel if you haven't already. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye-bye. To continue learning, click on the link in this video to download Speak English Naturally, our free guide to speaking and sounding like a native English speaker. The guide reveals the 3 most important kinds of conversational English you must learn if you want to sound native, and will help you experience instant improvement in your fluency and speaking confidence. To download your free guide on a mobile device, click on the link in the upper right of this video. To download your free guide from a computer, click on the link in the lower right of this video. I look forward to seeing you in the guide.